He said that he used to drive by our house and that he had always been in love with me and wanted to make love to me right then and there. Acme, Washington was the kind of place where people felt a deep, intrinsic sense of safety. A small town where neighbors knew each other by name, shopped at the local general store, and kept their doors unlocked at night. It was a community wrapped in the comforting blanket of innocence. But on Thanksgiving weekend of 1989, that blanket would be violently torn away, leaving behind a chilling void that would haunt the town for 3 decades. The case began on November 24, when an 18-year-old college student named Mandy Stavik went out for a run with her dog. The dog came back. Mandy did not. The day after Thanksgiving, 1989, Amanda Mandy Stavik, home from her first semester at Central Washington University, set out for a jog along the familiar country roads near her family. Her German Shepherd, Kira, ran faithfully by her side. But as the hours stretched on, a knot of dread began to tighten in her mother Mary's stomach. Soon the dog returned alone. And when she didn't come back, Mary recalled, "I panicked." A massive hunt was launched immediately. The tight-knit community of Acme poured out into the fields and forests, their headlights cutting through the darkening November landscape. Everybody was out looking for Mandy, but the search yielded nothing. For 3 agonizing days, there was only silence. Then, on November 27, the search came to a devastating end. Detective Ron Peterson, then with the Whatcom County Sheriff's Office, was navigating his Zodiac boat up the South Fork of the Nooksack River. "We came around the corner," he recounted, his voice heavy with the memory, "and got out of the main river and into the little side channel, and I could see something pink. It was Mandy. She was floating in the cold, shallow water, wearing only her running shoes and socks." The discovery was a shock that rippled through the search party and the entire community. As a father himself, Peterson's first instinct was paternal. He gently lifted her from the water. Years later, when asked if he said anything to her, in that solemn moment, his voice cracked. "I said, 'I got you.'" The news of her murder shattered the town's sense of security. "We were in shock. People were crying," one resident remembered. A killer was among them, and the question that hung in the air was as terrifying as the crime itself. Was this person going to strike again? Mandy Stavik had been a star in her small town. The captain of her high school basketball team, a cheerleader, a top student, and an aspiring airline pilot. Her high school coach, Jim Freeman, who became a father figure to her, remembered her spirit. "You see her smiling back at you right at your soul, with eyes that say, 'I love life.'" She was as her older sister. Molly described her larger than life. Detective Kevin Bowie, a rookie deputy in 1989, would spend the next 30 years piecing together Mandy's final moments. He determined she had been running along Strand Road when she was abducted. The last person to see her alive was a man in a pickup truck who saw her run past him just an eighth of a mile from her home. Bowie believed her assailant had to have been in a vehicle. "Mandy was too fast a runner to catch on foot," he explained. The working theory was that the attacker pointed a gun at her and forced her into his car. Investigators believed he then sexually assaulted her 3.5 miles away. The scratches on her arms and legs told a harrowing story of a desperate escape attempt. She was running away, Bowie deduced, running through the blackberry bushes. But her pursuer caught her, hit her in the head, and placed her in the river to ensure she drowned. In a moment of remarkable foresight, Detective Peterson, recently trained by the FBI in DNA recovery, knew he had to preserve any evidence on Mandy's body. His training paid off. During the autopsy, forensic experts recovered male DNA in the form of semen, confirming a sexual assault. The investigation was now a hunt for a ghost. Tips poured in. A local drifter, David Sushi, was questioned, and his DNA tested. It wasn't a match. Dozens of local men, including Mandy's boyfriend, provided samples. None of them matched. The case went cold, hanging like a dark cloud over Acme for more than 2 decades. As the years turned into a quarter of a century, Mandy's mother, Mary, had lost all hope. "I absolutely did not think it would ever get solved," she admitted. But Detective Bowie never gave up. By 2009, he was the lead investigator on the cold case. He scoured the old files, re-interviewing witnesses and old suspects. One lead took him all the way to Cambodia to question a former local, but it was another dead end. Then, in June of 2013, the case broke from the most unexpected of places, a conversation between 2 mothers at a water park. Heather Backstrom and Marilee Anderson, who both attended Mount Baker High School with Mandy, were watching their children play when another mother brought up Mandy's name. The 2 women, who barely knew each other, suddenly realized they shared the same long-held suspicion about the same man. "I just kind of turned to Marilee," Heather recalled, and said, "Well, I'm sure I know who killed her." Marilee looked back at her and replied, "Oh, I do too." The name they both spoke was Tim Bass. Each woman then shared a disturbing private encounter with Bass. Heather recounted an incident from the summer of 1989, just months before the murder, when she was 15. After a softball game, she was in a truck with a group of people, including Bass, who was then in his 20s. He began rubbing a pen along her bare legs, telling her how beautiful her eyes were. "I was very nervous," she said. Marilee's story was even more chilling. In July 1991, she was home alone with her young son when Tim Bass knocked on her door, asking to use the phone. After pretending to dial a number, he walked through her kitchen and into her bedroom. He said that he used to drive by our house. Marilee remembered her voice trembling and that he had always been in love with me and wanted to make love to me. Terrified, she threatened to call the police until he finally left. Realizing the gravity of their shared experience, the women contacted law enforcement. Investigators learned that Tim Bass had lived less than 2 miles from Mandy's house, directly on her running route. He had been overlooked in the initial investigation, partly because his family was well-liked in the community. For 25 years, he had lived a quiet life, married with 3 children, working as a delivery driver for a bakery. When police visited Bass at his home, his reaction was suspicious. He pretended he could barely remember Mandy Stavik. Mandy. "Oh, yeah. She was a girl that they found on the river," he said, a performance the detectives didn't buy. When they asked for a DNA sample, he refused. "I watched those crime shows," he told them. "I see how many people go to prison because they've given DNA." Police put Bass under surveillance on his overnight bakery route, hoping he would discard something with his DNA on it, but he was careful. The investigation stalled again. That is, until they received an unexpected offer of help from Tim's boss at the Franz Bakery, Kim Wagner. When she realized investigators were looking at Tim for Mandy's murder, she told them, "Well, You guys want DNA, don't you? I can get it for you." For 3 long months, Kim watched him waiting for an opportunity. Finally, she saw him throw a plastic cup and a Coke can into a trash bin. "I just stood there and went, 'It's game time,'" she said. She discreetly retrieved the items and turned them over to the police. Months later, the call came. Kevin, the lab technician, said to Detective Bowie, "We've got a match." After nearly 3 decades of dead ends, the DNA from the crime scene finally had a name: Timothy Bass. On December 12, 2017, 28 years after Mandy's death, police arrested a 50-year-old Tim Bass in the bakery parking lot. As he was being cuffed, he said only one thing: "We've got him." Then, playing dumb, he asked who. The trial of Timothy Bass began in 2019. The prosecution, led by a semi-retired Dave McCitron, who took the case pro bono, presented a simple argument: the defendant's DNA was found inside Mandy Stavik. Case closed. But the defense floated a shocking theory: Tim Bass and Mandy Stavik had been having a secret consensual affair. His attorney argued that evidence of sexual contact is not evidence of rape. In an interrogation video, Bass claimed it was more of a friendship-type thing, and then it just grew into more of a physical thing. The prosecution called this a desperate lie from a man cornered by science. They brought Tim's own family to the stand. His ex-wife, Gina, testified that after his arrest, Tim had asked his mother to lie and blame the crime on his own deceased father. His brother Tom testified that Tim had asked him to lie to police and claimed that he too had slept with Mandy, seemingly to make her look promiscuous. Tom also told the jury that Tim had told him, "I need a strong alibi, or I'm going to prison." After a 9-day trial and 5 hours of deliberation, the jury returned. The court clerk read the verdict: "We, the jury, find the defendant Timothy Forrest Bass guilty." A wave of relief washed over the courtroom. Mandy's family embraced weeping after 3 decades of waiting for this moment. At his sentencing, Bass maintained his innocence, but was given the maximum sentence of nearly 27 years. The judge looked at him and said, "For 30 years, you have lived free from the responsibility for your acts." But that life has been a lie. For the community of Acme, the verdict finally closed a dark chapter. For the 3 women whose courage brought a killer to justice, Heather, Marilee, and Kim, it was a triumph. And for Detective Kevin Bowie, it was the end of a 30-year promise. The case no one could forget was finally mercifully over. The community, scarred but resilient, could finally begin to heal.